Today we leave Bahoma and ride for a woman and start heading back to Kampala, but we're not finished yet. Instead of doing the long run to Kampala in one day, we're going to have an overnight stop in a mystery location. All I know is that a boat trip is involved. Sounds good to me. It turns out we're heading to Lake Mburo National Park. It's about 250 kilometres or 6 hours away back to the east. There is promised to be more of the bird life that we've seen at Mbamba on Lake Victoria, but also the ordinary wildlife of Africa that we've not seen much of yet. Zebra, impala, maybe giraffe, hippos and crocodiles as well. I can't wait. We head out of Bahoma after breakfast, past the broken Land Cruiser at the local mechanical workshop. But first we're driving along the minor roads through the bustling towns with their people and shops, enjoying one of our last African massages.
Most of those people come from the villages. Now, nobody walks the streets. So we want to go to take them first, or we go together to the are we all together all up?
In some stretches, the roads are quieter and we cross swollen rivers still high from the recent heavy rains. We share the roads with buses and trucks. Looks like you can get a bus to Kampala from out here.
Oh yeah, I saw one yesterday.
What we're looking at?
The wooden scooter on the...
Yeah. We saw two yesterday. I saw two yesterday.
I've only seen one. I've seen them on YouTube.
They're
It's-
from this eucalyptus. They are for going down.
The kids on the wooden scooters. They make them themselves, do they?
Yes.
Oops. Exposures all over the place.
Wouldn't be a bad idea at home.
This is today's Africa massage.
Every few hours we stop for a comfort break and to top up with fuel in one of the towns. Robert seems to know where all the clean toilets are. We grab a drink and maybe a snack and head off again. This is so unlike Australia, I'm glued to the window. Angela catches up on some sleep. I munch on the best peanuts I've ever eaten. Small and sweet, I'll probably never be able to get them again. Every now and then we see a milkman either picking up from the farm or delivering. This guy was light on. Some of them had 3 containers, one on the seat and one on each side on the footboards. As usual, Robert spots some wildlife on the side of the road. Crowned cranes, which are on the Ugandan coat of arms.
There's gone. And the cows with the serious horns.
Just about right.
Keep losing it. Just in case you were wondering, yes,
We finally turn onto the main highway. It's a good quality sealed road that will take us to Mburo, where Robert is going to shout us at local lunch. Didn't get a good picture of the place. I didn't want to be rude with a camera in people's faces, but this is it. Pretty much a buffet with delicious fruit drinks and a nice outdoor dining area. I tell you what, the local chickens are small compared to what I'm used to, but tasty. Yum. Sorry chickens, but that's the way it is. Lunch over, it's back into the green machine and off to our accommodation at Rakobo Rock. This is another winner. We have a nice private chalet in the bush, about 150 metres walk to the lodge. Note the huge rock that is part of our bathroom wall and one side of the shower. Just came outside to take a picture of the room, and there's 3 rock hyraxes here. Looks like a mum and 2 pups or whatever the juveniles are called. And we got warned not to leave anything outside because the baboons will nick it. And got quite a nice view. Once we dropped our bags, it was off to the national park, which was close by, and our first game drive and boat ride. We did 2 game drive boat ride combos, one in the afternoon and one the next morning. I've merged the pictures in this video as they were similar experiences. Before we even get to the national park, we see our first wildlife. Amongst the local Ankole cattle is a herd of zebra. The cattle themselves are quite a sight. Check out the horns, they're huge. It turns out they're quite light, but I'm still amazed that they can even lift their heads. It doesn't take long to see the next species. I'm reliably informed that this is not a deery thing, it's a water buck. Give me a break, I'm used to kangaroos. Next up, warthog. Robert was calling them pumbas. I asked if that was their real name. Red face, he was joking. I never did find out the local name for them. And this is an eagly thing. Robert knew what it was, I forgot. Next up, impala. According to the local legend, the M on their posterior regions, you can't say bum on YouTube, stands for McDonald's, fast food for lions. Then giraffe. We haven't got to the lake yet for our boat ride, but they decide we have to wait. Lucky we left early and have some time to spare. I thought spotting the wildlife would be seeing stuff way off in the distance.
So how close do you get to the line?
It depends on whether the roof is open or closed.
Yeah. In Kenya, in the giraffe sanctuary, they let you have a giraffe kiss.
Yeah, we did.
They've got a very long tongue. Yeah.
There is evidently one aged male lion in this park. We didn't see him. If you look carefully at this picture, you won't see him too. A bit further down the road we see 2 buffalo in the local spa. These are evidently losers kicked out of the herd. They look really upset about it. There was a hammerkop here as well. Sorry about the photo, not very good. The name means hammerhead and it's a close relative of the shoebill. We finally arrive at Lake Mburo, which is tucked away in the hills. We get aboard the boat, which I didn't get a picture of. It's bigger than I thought it would be and very comfortable. All of the photographers are running around trying to get good positions, and Angela has just picked a seat and is chilling out. One of the first things we see are hippos. We haven't even left the dock yet. There turned out to be a lot of hippos in Lake Mburo. There are yawning hippos, looking hippos, vocal hippos, and watching hippos. Even the eagles are watching us. The buffalo are a bit more laid back, enjoying a nice cool bath, but not too close, eh? Like Lake Victoria, there are lots of birds, many that we've seen before, like these pied kingfisher. Malachite kingfisher as well. And forest kingfisher. Bee eaters, these we didn't see at Lake Victoria. And in some places, butterflies drinking from the damp ground. Nile crocodiles, which we'd not seen before. Some very small and some pretty large ones. Not swimming with this one. And still we were watched. Some rare birds, an African finfoot, I think. Herons. And these, which were said to be rare, I can't remember what they're called now. And some not so happy hippos. Overall, the hippos seem to be a grumpy lot. While we were playing tourists, there were people out fishing on the lake. As a kayak fisherman, I feel some connection. Hope they got a good catch. After an hour or so, the boat drops us off. As we head back, we spot some guinea fowl. Funny to see these wild. They're common farm poultry in Australia. We also spot these mouse birds on the road having a dust bath. They're quite pretty, aren't they, with a little crest? These are evidently called mouse birds. The bachelors are still in the spa. It's been only a few hours and the water buffalo are still here.
Why were they kicked out?
They are weak now, they can't fight the young bulls.
Oh.
When we get back, we freshen up and head to the lodge for dinner. Holding up the main roof is a long, long pole. I don't know if you can see, but there's a snake skin on the lower section. It goes all the way to the ground. It must be 4 or 5 metres long. We're even joined by a bat. And once again, Uganda turned on a sunset for us. The morning dawned cool and misty. Today we have to head back to Kampala, but not before another trip on Lake Mburo. We have breakfast, enjoying the scenery, complete with warthogs and impala down amongst the trees. No time for a swim today. We have to pack our bags and head off. On our way back to the lake, we encounter the giraffes again. This may be the smallest of Uganda's national parks at 260 square kilometres, but there's plenty of room for the animals to get away from the tourists if they want to. Today we've organised the small boat, not the big one in the background we were in yesterday. We can get closer to the birds, but probably need to stay further away from the hippos. Soon we're off to explore a different part of the lake than where we were yesterday. And still we are watched. What have we done? Had too much fun? We saw pretty much the same wildlife as yesterday, so I won't repeat here. After our time was up, it was back to the van for the final run back to the city. And even there we were watched. We have to say goodbye to the Angkor cattle and the last of the wildlife, and then we hit the main road. But with one small adventure, well, small for all the others, but big for Mr. Geogeek me, we're going to across the Equator again, back into the Northern Hemisphere, where we'll be upside down again. Some people slept as the kilometres rolled under the wheels. I just couldn't, too much to see. All the stalls by the side of the road selling fruit and vegetables, fish. We're close to Lake Victoria with its surrounding marshes again. Rice fields. I think it's rice. Some people kicked off their shoes and relaxed as we rolled down the road. Don't worry, no passenger airbag. After a while we arrived in Kayabwe and the Equator. Time for a comfort and drink stop, and then we stroll down to the Equator. Unlike the trip south, the Equator Monument is in the right place here. We unashamedly do the whole tourist thing, along with the other people who have stopped to do exactly the same.
Except, it's hardly a precision device.
With some patience, I managed to get a photo of the correct latitude on my little Olympus TD5. The geogeek in me was so happy now. Naturally, we were treated to the Coriolis Force demonstration. I know it's not right, but I couldn't tell how it was done. It's like a magic show. You know the cards are not really disappearing, but for the life of you, you can't see how it's done.
On September 23rd, the equinox, if you stand on the equator at midday, how to watch that will happen every year twice. Let's go north and see what's going to change. So northern.
Yeah.
Should go clockwise. So the Coriolis effect is pulling clockwise in the northern hemisphere. But the farther away from the equator line, faster the speed. The closer the equator line, slower. Okay? Then what happens at the same time? Exactly. Let's do that. Got it? Center.
I don't trust it.
Seeing is believing. Seeing is believing.
I don't trust it.
Oh, we want to use the same ball, huh? Let's first do the middle on the 0 degrees latitude. I said here 13 countries on 0, 7 countries in Africa, which are prospered in 0 degrees latitude. So now, just want to open the sea.
Let's try this.
Just to be convinced. Let's do it. Africa have Uganda, there's Kenya, there's Somalia, Gabon, Congo DRC, Congo Brazzaville, Sao Tome. Then out of Africa goes to Indonesia, Colombia, Ecuador, and Brazil, which are on the equator. So we are trying to use the same one so that we are convinced with the vowels and see what happens. See? Maybe use the same.
Then it's back to the green machine for the final run to Kampala. Back to the busy streets and the roadside enterprises like this one making furniture. This time we're dropped off at accommodation near the airport. We're going to stay for a day and then we're off. We decided that without the space limitation of the high-ace van, we can repack and get a bigger case. We saw a shopping mall on the way, so Angela organises with one of the lodge staff to go and get a suitcase. Much to my amusement, I find afterwards that they didn't go to the shopping mall. There's evidently nothing there. The two of them hopped onto a motorcycle taxi and headed off to the local market. While Angela was organising some cash, the boda, taxi driver, found a case and did some bargaining for a decent price. Then they headed back with all three plus the case on the 125cc bike taxi. Angela well pleased with the job well done. Rainy this morning. This is our last day in Uganda. Getting taken out to the airport at 2 o'clock this afternoon to head down to South Africa, where we basically stay overnight and then head off to Namibia in the morning. It would be sad to leave. We've had a really, really good time here. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, and it's just been wonderful. Oh, one thing I forgot. Shouldn't consider coming here if you don't like fruit, because there's lots of it, and they serve it with every meal, and it's nice and fresh. Yeah, but they're certainly not going to let you starve in this country. As usual, the gardens here were beautiful. I think this is ginger of some kind. There were orchids in pots out under the trees. That night was our last meal together. Renato was heading off home that night. The staff set up a table on the grass in front of our rooms. I had the tilapia again, delicious. Next day it was our turn to go. We said our goodbyes to Andy and Jan and headed to the airport. We'll miss them, Renato and Robert. The plane departed over the vast sea of Lake Victoria for the long trip to Johannesburg and the next part of our adventure. It's a long trip to Africa for us, with no direct flights across the Indian Ocean, so we decided while we were here to see more. South Africa is not our final destination, just a stopover on the way to Namibia, but that's for the next set of videos. See you there, and goodbye from lovely Uganda.